it's really interesting to hear the perspective of the new manager, because we've heard from plenty of Rashford's old managers and there's been plenty of criticism for some of his performances.
2 seasons of pure failure. That's the harsh reality of Marcus Rashford's recent career, from being Manchester United's golden boy to becoming a ghost on the pitch. But now, things are about to change, with Hansi Flick leading Barcelona and eyeing a serious rebuild. Rashford could become Raphinha 2.0, but deadlier, faster, and more unpredictable. This isn't just a comeback story, it's a warning. But does Rashford really have what it takes to improve Barcelona, or is this just another reckless transfer? Well, let's talk about it. Barcelona were a problem last season, and I don't just mean they played well, I mean they took over Spain. They were the best team in the country by a mile. They walked away with La Liga, Copa del Rey, and Supercopa de España. That's all 3 domestic trophies. Not only did they win them, they won them with confidence. And if you're Real Madrid, you probably want to forget the season even happened. Barcelona beat Madrid twice, home and away in the league, and these weren't close, hard-fought wins. No, Barcelona dominated. They looked more aggressive, more organised, and honestly, more hungry. And then came the Supercopa, that 5-2 victory. That wasn't just a win, that was a full-blown statement. They pressed better, passed cleaner, and they made Madrid look like they were a step behind in every part of the pitch. This version of Barcelona wasn't just about results though. They looked sharp, they looked coordinated, and they finally had a system that clicked. Defensively, they were compact. In midfield, they were patient but decisive. And up front, they had enough to break down most teams in Spain. But as dominant as they were in Spain, Europe told a different story. They did well in the group stage, and even got through some tough knockout games. They beat Benfica, they beat Dortmund, and for a moment it looked like they might be back among Europe's elite. But then came the Champions League semi-final against Inter. That's when things started falling apart. Yes, there were some questionable refereeing decisions, we can all agree on that. But if we're being real, that's not why they lost. The deeper problem was obvious. They didn't have enough in the tank, especially in attack. The squad wasn't deep enough. When the starters were tired or marked out of the game, there was nobody reliable coming off the bench. You could see it clearly in that second half of extra time. The players were exhausted, the ideas were fading, and the only attacking change they could make was Hansi Flick, who at that point was completely out of form. He wasn't ready to flip the game, and that's what cost them. Barcelona didn't lose that semi-final because they weren't good enough. They lost it because they didn't have enough options when it mattered most. And that's exactly why Hansi Flick has one clear goal for this season: build depth, especially in attack. And if he wants to go for the treble again, it starts on the left wing. After one full season under Hansi Flick, we already know what kind of football he wants Barcelona to play. He's not experimenting anymore. He's setting a standard. And the results? They speak for themselves. La Liga champions, a team that pressed with intent, attacked with purpose, and most importantly, looked like they had an identity again. But even with the domestic success, Flick's not satisfied. He knows exactly where this team needs to go next: Europe. And for that, he knows he needs more firepower, more variety, more depth, especially on the left wing. Because let's be honest, that was the one area last season that never really clicked the way it should have. Yes, the system worked in Spain, but when it came to the Champions League, against the best, the lack of options in wide areas, particularly on the left, was exposed. That semi-final against Inter made it painfully clear: no depth, no plan B. And Flick isn't going to let that happen again. He wants a left winger who's not just fast or flashy. He wants someone versatile, someone who understands tactical space, someone who can press high, cut inside, or stretch the pitch, depending on what the match demands. In his system, the left winger is basically a weapon that adapts to different shapes. Sometimes you stay wide to pin the fullback. Other times, you come inside and overload the midfield. Sometimes you run in behind to exploit space left by a high line. It's a role that changes not just game to game, but minute to minute. That's what he tried to build last season. But the reality is, Raphinha is more natural on the right. Hansi Flick was off form. Ferran Torres lacked consistency. And in high-stakes moments, none of them could step up and deliver what was needed off the bench or in rotation. So going into this season, Flick has one clear objective: turn Barcelona from a strong 11 into a complete squad. A squad that doesn't just dominate domestically, but competes on every front, with quality depth in every attacking position. And that brings us back to the left wing, because if Flick wants someone who can thrive in a dynamic, high-intensity system, someone who can adapt, deliver goals, create chances, and stretch defences, there's one name that fits perfectly: Marcus Rashford. When you look at Marcus Rashford, it's easy to focus on the headlines, the goals, the dips, the drama. But if you step back and look at his last couple of seasons, you'll see a player who went from the peak of his powers to a frustrating slump and then slowly started to climb his way back. Let's rewind. 2 seasons ago, Rashford had what was easily the best year of his career. Over 30 goals in all competitions. He was the focal point of Manchester United's attack, and for the first time in a long time, it felt like he had put everything together. Confidence, sharpness, decision-making, and consistency. He was cutting in from the left, driving at defenders, pressing high, and making defenders panic every time he got on the ball. That was Rashford at full capacity. But then came last season, and the drop-off was hard to ignore. This season began with Erik ten Hag still at the helm. Expectations were high, but the system broke down quickly. United became predictable in possession. Their press lost its shape. The midfield couldn't control games. And Rashford, who thrives when there's structure and fast transitions, looked isolated. He wasn't getting service in the right areas. And when he did, he looked like a player low on confidence, forcing things, second-guessing himself. The criticism came fast, from fans, media, and even former players. And the truth is, Rashford looked lost. It wasn't about fitness or ability. The issues were tactical and mental. He needed a reset. Then came a new chapter. Ruben Amorim replaced Ten Hag. The idea was to refresh the tactics and re-energize the squad. And for a while, it looked like Rashford might benefit. Amorim brought a different approach. More fluid attacking rotations, clearer roles, and a faster tempo in the final third. And you could see flashes of the old Rashford again. He was getting into better spaces, receiving the ball on the move, and linking up with teammates more frequently. But something wasn't clicking behind the scenes. Reports came out that he and Amorim weren't seeing eye to eye. It wasn't just about tactics. It was about discipline, consistency, and attitude. That's when the loan to Aston Villa happened, and that's where things shifted again. At Villa, the spotlight was off. The demands were still high under Unai Emery, but the environment was different, more stable, more structured, and arguably a better fit for Rashford's style. Emery's system, built on compact pressing and quick vertical attacks, gave Rashford something he hadn't had all season: freedom to run, space to attack, and confidence to express himself. He played 10 league games, scoring and assisting 5 times. On paper, that might not blow anyone away, but given where he was mentally and physically, it was a massive improvement. More importantly, he looked sharp again. He was taking players on. He was making the right decisions in the final third. He was tracking back and pressing with purpose. Rashford's problem was never about talent. It was about the environment. He needs a clear system, a tactical role that suits his movement, and a coach who understands how to get the best out of him without boxing him in. And that's exactly why a move to Barcelona under Hansi Flick makes so much sense right now. When you think about Hansi Flick's style of football, the first thing that comes to mind is intensity, high pressing, vertical play, and fluid movement in the final third. He doesn't just want players who can keep the ball. He wants players who can break lines, create chaos, and do damage fast. That's where Rashford fits perfectly. Let's be clear, Barcelona already has talent in the front three. Raphinha, Yamal, Lewandowski, they're all proven. But Flick knows that if he's going to push for a treble this season, he needs rotation, he needs flexibility, and he needs pace. Rashford gives him all three. Positionally, Rashford's best work comes from the left wing. That's his natural zone, receiving the ball on the move, cutting inside onto his right foot, and either going for goal or slipping a pass in behind. But what makes him special is that he's not just limited to the left. He's capable of playing across the entire front line. He can start on the left if Raphinha or Yamal are on the right. If Lewandowski's rested or rotated, Rashford can play through the middle as a second striker, or even lead the line in a more dynamic front three. And if Flick ever wants to go ultra-aggressive, say 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3 with fluid wingers, Rashford gives him a completely different profile from the bench or in the 11. And this isn't just theory. Flick has already done something similar with Raphinha. Look at last season. Raphinha was mostly seen as a right winger who could cut inside and cross. But under Flick, his game evolved. He started making more diagonal runs, was moved to the left, and now he played higher and narrower in certain matches. He even contributed defensively more than usual. Flick knows how to reprogram wingers to suit the system. So imagine what he could do with Rashford, a player with more natural pace, better direct dribbling, and a proven eye for goal. You see, Barcelona struggled last season when their attack lacked vertical threat. In the big Champions League games, especially in that Inter semi-final, when things weren't working, they didn't have anyone off the bench who could stretch the game. Fati was out of form. Ferran was more like a striker. There was no game changer from the left. Rashford fixes that instantly. Even when he's not scoring, his mere presence forces defences to sit deeper. That opens up more space for midfielders like Gavi or Pedri to operate. It also means Lewandowski gets less double-teamed. In short, Rashford isn't just a winger, he's a system unlocker. And Flick's tactics thrive on that kind of player. He wants quick transitions, pressing triggers, wide overloads, and forwards who make runs in behind the last line. Rashford does that every time he steps on the pitch. He doesn't need the ball to be dangerous. He creates danger just by positioning himself well. So whether it's as a starter or a high-impact sub, Rashford gives Flick the tactical depth he's looking for. He adds another gear to a Barcelona attack that, as good as it was domestically, still needs that extra level to compete with the likes of City, Bayern or Madrid in Europe. And when you compare him directly to someone like Raphinha on the left, the contrast is sharp. And we're about to get into that next. But before we do that, please hit the subscribe button, thank you. Let's get one thing clear from the start. This isn't about saying Rashford is better than Raphinha. That wouldn't even be fair to Raphinha right now. The guy just came off the best season of his entire career. 34 goals and 25 assists in all competitions. That's not just impressive, that's Ballon d'Or conversation form. He was consistent, reliable, and key to Barcelona's domestic dominance. So no, this isn't about who's better. It's about what Rashford brings to this Barcelona team that Raphinha doesn't, and why that could be the difference in key games, especially the ones that matter in Europe. Let's talk about profiles. Raphinha is a ball-dominant winger. He likes to cut inside, link play, combine with midfielders, and work in tight spaces. He's got vision and technical quality, and he's improved his off-ball movement under Flick, but he's still not a natural runner in behind. He doesn't constantly stretch the game. He's not the kind of player that forces defenders to drop 5 to 10 yards deeper just by being on the pitch. That's where Rashford comes in. Rashford's game is built on pace, directness, and verticality. His movement is more aggressive, more explosive, and more uncomfortable to defend against, especially for teams that play a high line or teams that don't sit in a low block. When Barcelona needs to transition quickly or open up compact defensive shapes, Rashford is that player who creates space even without touching the ball. He occupies defenders just by the threat of what he might do. In games where Barcelona are struggling to break through, like that Champions League semi-final against Inter, they didn't just need technical quality, they needed unpredictability. They needed someone to inject urgency, someone to take on defenders 1 versus 1, someone to force errors. Raphinha is dangerous, yes, but Rashford brings a different kind of danger, one that's physical, explosive, and less reliant on the team playing perfectly around him. And that's what makes him such an asset for Hansi Flick. Flick's system thrives on runners. He wants wide players who are constantly making diagonal movements, getting in behind, and creating space for midfielders. Rashford is tailor-made for that. In fact, in certain games, especially those that are more transitional and chaotic, he might even offer more balance to the system than Raphinha on the left. Another thing Rashford brings is versatility. Raphinha is at his best on the right. Yes, he can play on the left, but it's not his natural side. Rashford, on the other hand, has been playing on the left for years and has even put in solid performances as a centre-forward or support striker. That flexibility gives Flick the chance to experiment with different shapes, especially when rotating in tight fixture windows. So this isn't about replacing Raphinha, it's about giving Flick options, tactical options, depth options, big game options. Because when you're fighting for the treble, you need more than one way to win. And with Rashford in the squad, Barcelona gain access to a completely different attacking profile. One that could be the difference between a Champions League semi-final exit and lifting the trophy. This isn't just about Marcus Rashford coming to Barcelona, it's about what that kind of signing signals. Barcelona already won La Liga under Hansi Flick. They already dominated Madrid in every domestic competition. They already have one of the best wingers in Europe in Raphinha, who just had a season most players only dream of. But they're not satisfied. They want more. They want to finally get back to the top of Europe. They want to be feared again in the Champions League. And for that, they need depth, variation, and game changers. Not just players who fit the system, but players who can take control of the moment when everything else fails. That's exactly where Marcus Rashford fits in. He gives them a different gear. He gives them another option. And under Hansi Flick, who's already shown he can revive and redefine players, Rashford could become something even more dangerous. A consistent, decisive piece in a Barcelona side that's already close to being complete. So if this move happens, and all the signs say it might, La Liga should be on alert. Because if Barcelona get this right, they won't just be chasing trophies, they'll be dominating them. But what do you think? Can they dominate with Rashford? Well, let me know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you.